Hey everyone, it's JPC again, and this is episode number 9 of Back in My Day. This week I want to do a little bit of a lore dump. I actually got a comment about maybe the story behind how I got into Valorant and or kind of gaming in general, and I figured that would be a good opportunity to go into some details about how I met Wahujin, became a subscriber of Wahujin's, and how Boomer to Diamond started and what the next steps are. So, kind of topical because I hit Diamond this week, and now Boomer to Diamond is technically over, and we're going to start doing after hours. So, kind of works out. If you're enjoying the content, please like, subscribe, comment. Um, uh, Helps out the podcast a little bit and gives me a little virtual pat on the back as well. Also, always comment and give feedback. I'd like to know if there are other lure drops you would like to hear about, and I'll sift through those and see which ones are easy enough to do, or if I feel have some type of merit to them, and go from there. Um, yeah. So thank you for hanging out, and let's get started. So let's talk about how I got into gaming, I guess. So I'm 40, and back when I was, I guess, 5 or 6, Mario Brothers had come out. So yeah, we're gonna go way back on this one, guys. Um, so I am actually I have a brother. We're twins, and my brother and I used to play Mario Brothers. And I remember like my earliest memories of video games was I it wasn't when I was playing. It was only when my brother was playing. Whenever he would jump, I would kick. I was sitting on the couch and I was kicking my feet in the air when he would jump, to avoid the whatever the Goombas or the turtles or whatever. Um, And I actually don't know if he did it as well whenever I was playing. I didn't kick when I played, but I only kicked when I watched. And from there, we just started buying video games. Like we really enjoyed playing Mario Brothers. And I'll be honest, I can't remember if we ever beat that game, or any of the other future Mario Brothers. I don't remember finishing Mario to be completely honest, but we moved on. We played tons of other games. Was it Double Dragon? I remember beating Double Dragon. We played Contra. A bunch of those style games. I think we were more into. A little bit of shooters and type of things. I think they're arguably all kind of the same game style, but Contra was. I remember early on, really liking Contra, and all that was on Nintendo. Of course, Mario and whatnot. I never played Atari. I don't believe. I don't think we ever got an Atari, but played Nintendo and went through the Nintendo phase. And then when Sega came out, we switched over to Sega solely. I remember playing Sonic early on, and going from there. And my brother and I early on also, like, we played sports. We were in Little League, and you name it, you name the sport, we probably did it. Um, but we used to play. It was Blades of Steel. Was again, I think it was a Sega game. I'm actually going to look these up while we're talking. It's a little bit of a ad hoc. Yeah, Blades of Steel was Nintendo. So that was one of the Nintendo games that we played. I remember playing that game, smashing the puck through the ice behind the goalie. Um, they had injuries, I think, if I remember correctly. Um, so we played sports games, which I was leading into on the Sega side. We played the Tecmo Super Bowl. Like we loved those games. Tecmo Bowl, Tecmo Super Bowl. We played those games, and so in all actuality, the majority of my gaming life has been actually playing sports games. Never considered shooters and MOBAs. I never considered those to be um, something I would put time into because I already played sports. I physically played sports, so the thing that I got excited about or focused on was sports video games. You could kind of do those, make your own, make yourself in the game and play the game and whatnot, and all the way up through the Madden games and the 2K sports games and all those. Um, those ended up always being kind of the focus of the sports games. And my brother and I, we always played those games together. We never played against each other either. It was always let's play on the dual screen or whatever, and we were always on the same team. That kind of is what we enjoyed about those games. And then I want to say it was Call of Duty. It was Modern Warfare. I think it was the first Modern Warfare. Um, no, I have to back up. It was before that. So my brother and I, when we graduated high school, that was the year 2000 for those keeping track. Um, there was this little kind of internet cafe type of place in Florida where we're from, and it was called Off Limits, and we were playing Counter Strike. I don't remember which one. I don't remember if it was global. I don't remember which one, but it was in 2000, so um, around that time. But my brother and I, when we played it, it was always I remember Vertigo. I don't remember all the maps at all, but I remember Vertigo because when you started on the second floor, you could go through the little, looks like a little hole there. And if you were fast enough, you could get people while they were still buying. And we would just, every game, we would just jump down and we would just start trying to knife people um, in their spawn on whatever. Again, I don't remember if we were CT or if we were T side, but I remember playing those games. And again, like we never played to get better. We were purely just trying to do the most obnoxious things, and um, that was when like hacks were and everything were rampant. People were doing all kinds of things, and it ended up not being fun very quickly to us because again we weren't playing to be competitive. We were playing to have fun, but that only lasted like again a couple months. Like we would work and then take $20 in and play for a couple hours and um, then go back to work and try to make more money. Right, like it was one of those things where again that was our first kind of exposure to like first person shooters, um, which again was a lot of fun. I don't I loved doing what we did. That's all we ever cared about was trying to knife people. It was so much fun. That led to eventually Call of Duty, which we only played on PlayStation because we were a PlayStation family. My brother and I. I actually don't think I've ever owned an Xbox. Yeah, I don't believe I've ever owned an Xbox. I think I only owned PlayStations. And so yeah, we played console Call of Duty, and they had team deathmatch, right? So you didn't have to play the. I think it's called Search and Destroy on Call of Duty. That was the comparable version of the Counter Strike or the Valorant structured game. We never really played Search and Destroy. If we ever did, it was like a one off. But we only played team deathmatch, and we would fucking buy shotguns and sit in small areas and just annoy people. Again, we were those guys. Yeah, we were. Um, yeah, we weren't playing competitively. We were just playing to have fun and do meme shit without regard for what was our KD or how many team death matches did we win in a row or what was our win percentage. None of that mattered. Actually, never was something that crossed our minds to even track or monitor or pay attention to. As a matter of fact, like we enjoyed camping not because we wanted to. Yeah, I know. You're all rolling your eyes right now. Yeah, I'm a camper. I was a camper, but we weren't looking to win. We were purely doing it to annoy people. It was pure um, making people mauled, and it just because we weren't taking the game seriously at all. Like I said, so and we went all the way through. Like I remember playing Black Ops. Claymores were the best thing ever made in a Call of Duty game. The camping was rampant with claymores. Like it, oh, I loved it so much. Thank you, you know, for ever putting that in a game. I'm sad when they took it out. And then went through, the other levels, and I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was Modern Warfare. It might have been, but where they started adding like the exosuits, and you could do all kinds of like, yeah, that was about the point where I was like, this has turned into, um, I'm not going to start trying to track people running on walls. So that was about the time we stopped playing. I stopped playing Call of Duty. I think my brother still played. Beyond that, so around that time, um, I can't remember who actually got me into Dota, but when I stopped playing console games, I wanted to start playing PC games. I could actually afford a PC. I was in my 30s, and I decided to play Dota. I had not heard of League of Legends. I don't know that I would have liked one or the other more had I gotten into one of them first. I think Wahujin had a very good kind of explanation the other day on stream where he said that he didn't like Dota, but that's because he played League of Legends first. Had he played Dota first, he might have liked that more, right? I think it's one of those exposure things. But I don't know that I had ever heard of League of Legends, and I can't remember who got me into Dota. I want to say it was somebody I was playing. I played Ultimate Frisbee through most of my 20s, and there was a guy on my team who got me into both Ultimate Frisbee and to both Dota and Dungeons and Dragons. That was around the time I kind of started doing things that weren't just me being um, outside and physical. The introvert in me started to grow around that time, I think, and so I started playing Dota. And oh, you know what? I have to pause. He got me into StarCraft first, and then we expanded it. I expanded into that. So that's what it was. It wasn't Dota. It was StarCraft that the guy got me into, and we would play again, 2v2, 3v3 type of StarCraft games. And again, I never played it competitively. I never got into StarCraft to see if I could rank up or whatever. How good could I get? How could I go through? Why can't I cannon rush these guys all the way to gold? You know what I mean? I never. I'm pretty sure I played ranked or comp or whatever. And I think I ended up like playing once and getting silver and just being like, okay, cool. And then I never went back to it, type of deal. But then from there, I expanded into Dota, and that wasn't that friend of mine, Ron. It wasn't that friend that got me into Dota. I actually can't remember. I wonder if I came across it on Twitch or something. Was watching it being played and thought it would be fun to play. But I started playing Dota, and I actually wanted to um, figure out Dota. That was the first game I played that I wanted to figure out, and it was very hard. I never played a MOBA. I was terrible at StarCraft, so um, like there was no top-down type of history for me. But I actually played over 1,000 games of Dota. I don't think I played 1,000 competitive games. I think I played 1,000 total games. Um, and I calibrated Crusader, I think it was. Yeah, it was Crusader one. And I did the same thing I did in StarCraft. I was like, okay, cool. Like I'd like to know more, but I never actually wanted to solo queue. I wanted to play with somebody else. Um, which ended up being a problem because I played support, and if I played with somebody else, it was probably going to be a carry, and I was definitely duo crutching whenever I played with somebody, even in the unrated games. And it just became one of those things that the I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I had people that I could talk to, I had people I could ask questions about and whatnot. And I ended up learning things like animation canceling. So like imagine like me in my late 30s realizing that there's a component to video games that is to cast a spell and then cancel the animation before the spell ends so you could cast another spell, or whatever the terminology is. That had never occurred to me. And I got this impression that playing games was about who could do things faster, but not about who could do things more efficiently. And I think that that never occurred to me, that efficiently thing. And I was, I'm this, again, I'm in my 30s, so, take it for what it's worth. But I'm like, yeah, why can't I do this just as fast as anybody else can? Like, I had that um, inability to see uh, whether or not, why, inability to see why I wasn't going to get better without doing these things. And I remember having a conversation with Wahujin about this, that when I played sports, it didn't matter what the sport was: baseball, basketball, football, soccer, ultimate frisbee, all of them, even cross country. I could look across at the person I was competing against, and I could tell why I was or wasn't beating them. Um, they're faster than me, they're bigger than me, they're stronger than me, they can jump higher than me, right? They can throw better than me. You can physically see those things. But with a video game, it's a digital representation of somebody. So if I'm in Dota and I'm playing Crystal Maiden, and the other person, the support on the other team is playing Crystal Maiden, and they're they're just outplaying me. Um, I don't know why. Like I could not wrap my head around this person having better timing or positioning or the turn radius, right? Control of their agent, being able to look at different places on the map while still controlling their agent, their character, their hero. Um, the ability to do something just half a second faster 200 times is always going to outplay me. And at that time, I couldn't get it, and it actually Dota frustrated me a lot because of that. And that goes to it. I started to learn that, um, I knew that I couldn't play um, a carry, right, hero. I knew I couldn't play mid, not long term. I'm sure that I could have played it up to a point. So like, be 100% clear about that. But unless I learned those nuances, those efficiencies, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to play. I would call it a fast twitch agent, right? For lack of a better term, fast twitch agent. Um, I wasn't going to be able to do those. Not in my 30s, not in my late 30s. Um, but that leads me to, there was a guy who was in a Dota server that I was in. There's a couple of guys who was in a Dota server that I was in, and one day they were like, "You guys want to play Valorant?" And that was the first time I'd actually heard of Valorant. Um, we queued up and we tried to play. I actually was having an issue with Vanguard. It was kicking me out of Valorant every 5 minutes or something crazy. It was even probably faster than that, and it got super frustrating. I ended up uninstalling it because the game was unplayable and I couldn't figure it out. I went back to Dota, and then I want to say it was probably like 6 months later. I hadn't played Dota in probably 2 or months or so at that point, and I figured I would give Valorant another shot. The agents, the abilities with the agents, it was a first person shooter, which again I had enjoyed in my past. I understood the mechanics of T sided, CT sided from my days playing Counter Strike back in the day, but I knew nothing else about the game really, and went back, re-downloaded it, figured out why Vanguard was causing a problem, fixed that, and I started playing. And I decided I was going to move on from Dota at that point, and it was purely on a whim from being tired of Dota. And what I ultimately did was started playing it, and I decided when I first started playing it that this would actually be the first time that I wanted to get better at something. Like I wanted to play it, understand it fully, and go play it. Oh, I want to go back real quick. So there was something, and I know this isn't 100% true, but in Dota, it was probably 500, 600 games in before somebody had come up with a way, and it was BSJ, um, who did this like pseudo flowchart, and he talked about how the first tower you want to try to take, again, depending on your comp and depending on other things, but generally the first tower you want to try to take is the enemy team's safe lane tier 1. And then the second one would be the mid lane tier one. Um, if you played a hero where you could take a tower quick, like a Dragon Knight or something, take the tier two first, but then you want to go try to take the tier one in the safe lane. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Take the mid tier one first, and then you want to go take the off lane, your off lane, their safe lane, tier one. If that's confusing to people, I apologize. But anyway, there was this flowchart that kind of like opened up, and you actually want to not group up and attack the enemy team's offlane tier one because it doesn't open up jungle camps. It doesn't open up your economy. And when he walked like through those things, like, oh, that makes so much sense. There's a high level macro game that I can use as a baseline. So I bring that up because that was 500, 600 games in, and I just felt like I had wasted my time trying to learn position five um, without that information. Because you go in solo queue, you end up with four other people on your team, and it's literally like it's awful. It's the blind leading the blind. The person who has the most experience probably is the best person, and they're telling everybody to do the thing that they want to do anyway. Everybody knows it can get toxic and get whatever. So I was getting tired of that, and the fact that it took taken that long for somebody to just go, yeah, like by default, just try to go get the say enemy safe lane tier one. Like that's such a good thing to tell people at a lower rank. Um, and then explain it. Just it opens up your opportunity for neutral camps. That's all. That's really the main thing. Keep the waves pushed in, right? There's a whole other aspect to it, but just that one little piece of information would have been nice to know what we were fighting for, even if our team was not good enough to go do those things. So I digress a little bit, but I think that really bothered me that that was not something that was put out early enough for a game that had been out that long. I watched a lot of people the same way that I did kind of did with Valorant. I watched a lot of people. I watched BSJ. I watched Purge, Jenkins when they were Dota Alchemy, and I loved all those. They're all great. They were very very good at explaining things. I wasn't going to pay for coaching um, at such a low rank because I didn't think it was necessary, but for that to not come out for that much amount of time for me playing was extremely frustrating. I switched over to Valorant, started playing Valorant because I think the objectives are a lot more obvious. You need to get the spike down. You need to protect the spike, or you need to prevent the spike from getting down. You need to diffuse the spike. Um, they're a lot more intuitive from that perspective. I don't want to say that first person shooters are less strategic. I don't think that that's true. It's a different kind of strategy, especially since you get multiple rounds to attempt to do something. Dota is very, in League of Legends, is very, once the game starts, you get one chance at laning phase. You get one chance at mid round or mid game, you get one chance at late game. If you mess those things up, I mean, give or take, of course, you can attack and come back and reset or whatever. But if you get far enough ahead in economy and you don't make mistakes, the game is essentially over. Um, because you can absorb the whole map. Valorant has this um, halftime you switch and your economy starts over, and you have an opportunity to, right? That's why the 9-3 curse kind of is this meme because if you can do it on defense on your side, we can do it on defense when it's our turn, and it's a different game. It's the difference between soccer and football. Football and football. It's a difference between football, where the game is 45 minutes, halftime, 45 minutes, and it's nonstop, and um, you're probing, you're moving the ball around, you're trying to control possession, you're trying to attack the penalty box, you're trying to do these things. Whereas football, American football, it's you play it down, you reset. You play it down, you reset. You play it down, you reset. And yes, the game changes, the strategy changes over the course of the game, but I get four downs to get a first down so that I can then reset. I get 4 downs to get a first down, then I can then reset. And it was one of those things where it took a little bit to figure it out. Like Wahujin eventually explained it in one of his videos for me. But first round pistols, you lose pistols, you're on eco, and then you get to do a full buy on the third round. But if you're on the other side of that, you first round pistols, second round, you have an economic advantage. You can buy Spectres or a Bulldog or whatever you might be able to buy. But then if you win round two, you're on bonus. And you automatically, because again, you don't want to buy up or whatever the strategies are around that. I won't try to go into that because I know I won't explain it very well. But that third round, if you win the first 2 rounds, you're on eco. And you should do something that is advantageous for an economic disadvantage. Um, Shorter range guns, you want to try to fight the close range, right? You don't want to go Pearl B, B long, when you have an economic disadvantage. Um, they have better guns. You're gonna probably die because they have better guns. So it's one of those things where I understood that a little bit better. That you get other chances, you get multiple chances, and you can try to read and adapt to it. I never understood that in Dota. I never understood how you can fall behind and not force things. I just I never got it. So that's one of the reasons I switched. I picked Valorant because I really like that one time I got a chance to play with the Dota friends and kind of went and picked it up um, after figuring that out. So I mean, ultimately, that's kind of how I got from the little kid who played, the original Mario Brothers. Again, I think it was the original Mario Brothers, all the way to how I became a 40-year-old who was playing Valorant. Um, and that's kind of my gaming story, as it were. I think that I would leave off there with also, I've had a habit of wanting my games to feel real. Real is not the right word, right? I don't like real is not the right word, but I don't know that I could figure out a good word to use. But the way I'll explain that is when I played Madden. I didn't want to cheese Madden by putting whatever a wide receiver at running back and playing, or wide receiver at quarterback and playing wildcat formation and just outrunning everybody, right? I didn't want to find the play that was broken, and just do that over and over again, right? So I kind of point that out because I had this huge disadvantage when it came to playing competitively, and that's one of the reasons I didn't like playing competitively, is I didn't want to find the again, you'll call it cheesing, right? You call it cheesing, but every sport you play to win within the rules. Um, that's how I played every sport that I ever played. But I never approached video games that way. And that was a major, I'll call it weakness, I'll call it flaw in my approach to getting better at games. I don't know how again, the reason real is not the right word is like, how is Dota real? How is Valorant real, right? Phoenix can't throw fire from his hands in real life. So like real's not the right word, but I wanted there to be like, I guess, authenticity to it. Maybe that's a better word. Um, and I never thought of cheesy things. I never thought of efficiencies. So playing to find competitive advantages was not something in my wheelhouse. So I wanted to kind of leave on that because we'll go to the next part here, which is um, how I found Wahujin. And I guess the Wahujin item is, um, I was picking up Valorant. I had been playing unrated. I unlocked all the agents. I was looking to unlock every agent before I ever played competitive, so that I could figure out who I did and didn't like and what, their abilities and whatnot. And I was actually playing Initiator initially. I think I ended with 61 hours of Fade in unrated because Fade initially was like the agent that I really liked. I also think she was broken at the time, if I remember correctly. Well, yeah, I don't think that there were patches afterwards. I know that they had recently nerfed her, and I think I was playing her when she was super strong. That her dogs were, you could never shoot him or whatever. I was playing her when she was strong, but there was something about the recon, the eye, that allowed me to, I don't know, I guess at the level I was playing at, which was essentially silver and low gold, that just that vision was super broken because I had like a 60% win rate or something crazy with Fade and unrated, knowing that it's unrated and all those other caveats. And then I went and I played my I calibrated at silver one. I promptly lost like 4 or 5 games in D rank to bronze three. Played one more game, went back to silver one, and stopped playing. Like I immediately was like, pump the brakes. I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't know enough to understand why this is like why I'm not doing well. And because I was starting to take it seriously, I started to go and look and listen to different coaches. So I actually did listen to Joel's. I listened to OD. I was watching, who else was it? Worthy TV. Um, there were a number of people out there that I was uh, watching and listening to and asking questions in chat and whatnot. And then while watching OD, who I kind of had started with, Wahujin was in one of his streams one time, and actually had not heard of Wahujin. I started watching Wahujin, and the first night that I went and watched Wahujin, put it out there. This is a little sad, um, but we had just put down one of our dogs who we did not expect to. He ended up having cancer. It caught us off guard, and we had put him down. That night, though, I was actually already deciding to go watch Wahujin at one point, and that night I just didn't feel like doing anything, and I kind of went to Twitch, and Wahujin was on, and I popped him on, and I started watching him. And if you guys have never seen an old Mad Banana episode, it was fucking hilarious. Like he was not trying to coach. He was, um, berating. He was joking. He was basically essentially just like, what the fuck are you doing here? Why are you doing this way? It was hilarious. It caught me off guard, and it really brightened my day. It was funny, um, and kind of seeing that kind of this is not what we normally do, but I'm gonna mix it up tonight type of thing really made me like Wahujin as a content creator, an instructor, as it were. And I immediately just went to his Discord and tier three to him. And this is a short part of the segment here. Like it was really that fast. Like I had planned on I've been watching some coaches, I've been absorbing content, and I had decided to check out Wahujin one night, and it was not a good night for me. And he just made me laugh in my chair. Like I could not get enough. His humor was so funny, and he was still explaining things in ways that was like, yeah, that makes sense. I really don't know why he would do it that way. And yeah, it was a Mad Banana segment. So if you ever get a chance to go find his old Mad Banana stuff, I think they're on YouTube. Hilarious, just fantastic. I tier three him, and I was sold. I was going to be coming back to his content from that point on. All right, until I got bored of it, I guess technically, right? Just in all honesty, and I haven't at this point gotten bored of it. So still hanging around. 6 months, 6 months plus later, right? I think that May was 6 months. Um, So I guess the last part of all of this is kind of how Boomer to Diamond got put together, and I'll kind of like put a little caveat out. Like I hope I'm doing this justice. If these are my words and my perspective, if Wahujin, you actually check this out or hear this at any rate, if I say any of this incorrectly, I apologize. Like this is just I guess my perspective, and I'm sure I'm going to use the wrong words at some point, but anyway, I was in the tier three chat. We were just discussing things, joking around like we do in tier three. And um, Wahujin asked the question, "Hey, what kind of content do you guys want to see? What are some ideas you have?" And we were kind of just spitballing, throwing stuff out there, and a lot of things he's kind of turned into segments for people. And one of the things that got joked out around about was Boomer to Radiant. And again, I don't know that I put it out there, or somebody else did. I don't really remember. Um, but I laughed. I was like, yeah, you take a 40-year-old to Radiant, ha ha ha. um, based off of that kind of comment. And he actually pinged me a couple of days later, and he was like, "Is that something you really want to try?" And I was like, sure, I'd be down. And he had me kind of prove that I could play every day, which is his consistency expectation. Can you play every day for 2 weeks? Give me your tracker. Let's test it out. Here's what I want you to do. And if you can do it, if it's not something that causes you extra stress or family challenges or whatever, then let's try it out and let's do it. And I was able to do it. I was fully working at home at the time, so I had a little bit less pressure during the day, and I could kind of just chill after work without the drive home and all the other kind of pressures that come with working in the office, going in and coming home every day. And I was able to do it. Like if you hit the exclamation point consistency in Discord today, it'll show a track of uh, my consistency for both comp and DMs at the time, with like one little gap there because we went to Colorado for a weekend. Sorry, not Colorado, Oklahoma for a weekend. But if we hadn't gone, it would be a fully red tracker, on there. And yeah, we started it, and I hadn't played since I want to say it was early October because like I said earlier, like I kind of calibrated D rank to bronze 3 and then came back to silver 1. So I was a silver 1 player at the time, and I did the consistency thing, and he was like, let's go for it. We'll start off, and he kind of gave me stipulations, right? Play the agents you want to now. We'll kind of figure those things out, and we'll go from there. And it was the beginning of the new act, episode 5, act 3. And I came in, I played my game. I'm silver 1, and I was playing Viper Omen. I think it was just Viper Omen, maybe Astra, because it was before he said no Astra. Um, and we started from there, and that was the beginning of things. And now we are 6.5 months later, and I am now diamond. So uh, totally worth it. The only thing that's kind of changed between all of that, obviously, I've gotten better at the game through all of the consistency and the practice and the pointers, and he has an ability to kind of see what I'm doing and suggest things that I myself wouldn't suggest to myself, because I'm not thinking about it correctly. Like there was a period where I was reaching for plat 1 rank up, and I was not having fun. I was just not having fun playing the game, and we had like kind of a come to Jesus moment about if you're not having fun, then there's really no point in doing this. And so we look for ways to help me have fun, right? And um, he's done a lot for my competitive spirit in that aspect, and it's actually I'm extremely appreciative of it. The only thing that's changed outside of that has been I go into work 3 days a week now, and it makes Monday nights and Tuesday nights really hard to feel mentally prepared to play. So my consistency has dropped back to 5 days a week instead of 7 days a week. In terms of playing, I still try to do my practices, give or take a sickness or give or take a vacation. So, but that's all the news that's fit to print, as they say. Um, I guess we'll leave it off there. I hope this was a fun lore dump, a little bit of a long winded back and forth about kind of my history without hopefully doxing myself. Um, and I hope this was enjoyable, and I'd like to do this again in the future. So if there are other things you're interested in hearing about, uh, different, yeah, lore things, why I choose agents, what I like about those agents, even things outside of Valorant, feel free to ask, and we'll sift through them and see what I feel like I have enough to talk about on. So I hope you all have a good week. Thank you for hanging out, Next week, I think I'm going to do communication. I do want to talk a little bit about communication, some struggles that I have with it, and what I'm doing about it. It's actually going to be a big part of my growth from Diamond on up. So it's something I do have to fix, and hopefully I can rationalize and visualize the challenges and the improvements that I need. I think it'll be great. All right. Thank you all. Have a great week and good luck in your games.